Okay, here's the tools required to do this job. I've got some hobby scissors with curved jaw, extreme duty Velcro, Indian head gasket shellac, a door panel clip removing tool, a cordless drill, drill bits, needle nose pliers, an assortment of screwdrivers, both Phillips and flathead, some scratch awls, a rivet gun, some rivets, some door panel clips, Dyna wipes, some dry paper towels, and some rubbing alcohol. Right, today we're working on a 1975 124 Fiat Spider. We're going to be swapping out the door panels. You can see the back edge of the door here on the original panel wasn't holding in very good. The factory door panel clips just did not hold up very well, and we're going to replace with something different. I'll show you that at the end of the video. All right, the first thing we're going to do is remove the chrome piece that's in the top of the armrest. This is concealing one of the screws, but you want to be very careful with it because it is not replaceable. You're going to have to reuse your old one. We're going to use 2 flathead screwdrivers to pry it up, and once you get it about halfway, you should be able to pop it out. And then you want to put it in a nice secure place where it won't get lost or damaged. Okay, we're going to take the 3 screws out. There's 2 on the bottom edge and then 1 at the top underneath the chrome piece we already removed. Once you get all 3 screws out, you're going to set your armrest aside and we're going to reuse that. The door panels don't come with them. Next thing is the inner door handle. It's a Phillips head screw. Should require very little effort. They're not in very tight. Next thing is a window crank handle. All right, for the window crank handle removing tool, you want to slide it between the window crank handle and then the trim washer, not between the washer and the panel itself. You'll never get the clip off that way. The clip is out towards the handle side. Doesn't take much effort, just a slight little tap, and then you pull gently out on the window crank handle and it should slide right off. On this car, there are 3 Phillips head screws at the front of the door panel. Okay, the next thing, we're going to release the door panel clips from the bottom edge of the door. They're already released from the back, as you can see originally in the video I showed you. It wasn't holding. Once you have all the screws out and retainers, the door panel just slides straight up off of the door. Okay, you can see here I've laid the new panel out to compare it with the old one that came off of the car. One reason to do this is just to make sure that you have ordered the correct part the first time. As you can see, it has the heat stitching. All the chrome trim is the same. The holes already cut for the door handle. The chrome kick plates are the same. As you can see on the original one, the clips on the back had broken. I'll flip it over in a minute and you can see it, but someone had put Phillips head screws holding it in. Of course, you won't need that with a new one. The new ones are already attached to the panels. There you can see where the pins broke off, and they put Phillips head screws to hold it in. And you flip the 2 over to compare them, you can see all the holes line up. One thing that you're going to have to do is attach an inner window scraper to the new panel. It does not come with them. We do supply them. We have an original type. In this case, the customer decided he wanted to use the ones from Alfa Romeo GTV because he liked the way they look better. Nope, just personal preference. You can see all the holes are the same. First thing you want to do is line up the inner window handle pin with the hole, and right now we're just doing this to check fitment. All right, what I'm doing here now, I'm marking the holes so I'll know where to cut them in the door panel. What I've done, I've taken the screws, put them back in, and put some Indian head shellac on the heads of the screws. What we're going to do now is put the panel back in place, lining the hole up with the pin that's already provided, and then I'm going to press firmly on the door panel against the door so that it'll make marks on the back of the panel, so I'll make sure all my holes line up properly before I cut the vinyl. You can see my marks lined up pretty close, and they're all off the same dimension, so I know that I've got it lined up right. Okay, now we're going to install the inner window scraper. The owner did not want to use the original ones. The ones we're going to use on this particular car are from Alfa Romeo GTV. They're longer. I needed to cut them to length, but he actually liked the way they looked better. Just a personal preference. Now, if you slide your fingers under the edge of this, you can feel there's holes already drilled from the factory. We're not going to use those because the rivets that I'm using are slightly too small to use those holes. So you want to mark where those holes are and drill the holes for the new rivets in a different location. Or we're going to lay the new window scraper out, comparing it to the old one. Mark the length of it and just cut it off with some cutting pliers. Okay, I'm going to use some clips just to hold this scraper in place. I'm going to start drilling one rivet in the back edge first. We're going to go all the way through the scraper and through the upper part of the door panel. And I'm using a 1/8 drill bit. You want to take the rivet and push it all the way through with the rivet gun, and it usually only takes one squeeze. The rivets I'm using are 1/8 diameter with a 1/8 depth. You can't use deep rivets because it won't fit over the edge of the door. After you do the front one, you want to go all the way to the back and do the back one. The reason I do it this way is so that I'm going to have a straight line lining it up from front to back, so it won't rise and fall either way. You can put however many rivets you'd like. I just did 4, 1 on each end and then 2 splitting the difference in the middle. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and cut our holes. I've already marked the back of the panel so I know which holes to cut. The first 3 I'm going to do are for the door pull and armrest. I'm going to take a scratch awl and punch a hole all the way through each one of them, right in the center. And then I'm going to take my curved scissors and I'm going to cut a hole. You don't really have to worry about the hole being too big. You don't want it to be more than about a 1/2 inch in diameter because the armrest is going to cover it up. It's pretty thick. I cut these holes pretty small. You can cut them slightly larger than that, but not a whole lot larger. You want to cut all the way through the vinyl and then all the way through the backing underneath of it. This one up here you can cut a little bit bigger, and actually you should cut it a little bit bigger and pull all the insulation out of it. The window crank handle is probably the hardest part of this installation. What I'm using here is a Dynacloth and then going back over it with a dry towel just to clean it up good. Okay, these are the plugs where all the door panel clips fit into. We're not going to use those again because they just don't hold the door panel on very well over the years. And then at the front edge, you can see where the 3 Phillips head screws were. Okay, here I'm installing the Velcro. We put 1 at the front edge, 2 across the bottom, and then 1 on the back edge. You don't really have to be concerned about anything in the center because you're going to have the window crank handle, the armrest, and the inner door handle holding the panel on also. Okay, now we're going to slide our door panel into place. You can use the door handle pin as a line-up. All right, now we're going to install the window crank handle. You want to slide the plastic spacer in place first. And you also, with the window all the way down, you want to make sure you had the window crank handle positioned like you'd want it, because once you install it, it's installed. You'd have to redo all this again. What I did is compared it to the driver's side to make sure I put it back in the same position as what this one would have been originally. You're going to have to press pretty firm here to get it to snap in place. You may need an extra set of hands to help you with it.
Test it here.
The next thing you want to do is roll your window up and roll it back down just to make sure it's functioning properly. Okay, now I'm going to put the armrest back on. What I'm using here is 2 scratch awls to line up the holes in the armrest with the holes that are already in the door. These are going all the way through the panel into the self-tapping screws, into the self-tapping holes that are actually in the door itself. I'm putting in the awls in the top and the bottom holes, and I'm going to start my first screw in the center hole. Once you get 1 screw started, the other 2 are pretty much falling into place, but you might have to spend a little bit of time doing this. In this particular case, I could get the top screw to line up, but not the middle one, so I kind of switched positions here. I did the top one, then I did the back one, and then I did the center one. Once you get all 3 screws started, just go back and tighten all 3 of them up. Put your chrome trim piece back in place, and it should just snap in. The last step is to install the inner door handle. It just takes the same Phillips head screw you took out, put it back on, shut the door, check the alignment, and you're done.